Okay, so one of the prompts for my Becca's Bookoplathon was that I needed to treat my shelf, and I decided that I am going to go to the bookstore, pick out a book, and then this whole vlog, I am just going to read that book, tell you my thoughts on it. So this is just going to kind of be a book shopping vlog and then a one book vlog, and I'm really excited for that. So let's go find out which book we're going to get. Okay, so I picked out those 4 books at the bookstore, and then I sent messages out to some of my family and friends and had them help me decide which one that I was going to get, and the winner is, drumroll, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I am really excited about this one, and my husband is super excited that this was the winner as well because it is historically based. This is an adult fantasy story that is based on the, I think it's the Second Sino-Japanese War, and it has some historical connection to the massacre of Nanking. I am not 100% certain how closely it follows it or if it was loosely based on it, but I'm really, really excited to start reading it. This is also the Shelf Space unofficial book club pick for September, so I'm excited to be able to jump in, be able to chat with people about this book. It looks like it's not going to be that long, right? I mean, it looks relatively short. It is over 500 pages. It's deceptive, but I think it's gorgeous. I really like this orange cover. I know the hardcovers were white and I like those too, but I really like the orange coloring to this book. This is going to be my final book for Becca's Bookoplathon, the Treat Your Shelf book. And if I finish this, I'm going to have finished my very first readathon ever. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. I started reading kind of a tiny bit of it before. I haven't really gotten into it, but I think I'm going to try to just knock out this book today. I have pretty much a day to myself. I have nothing planned to do. I have nothing that I need to do. So I think I'm going to read The Poppy War, and it's going to be awesome. That's going to be my stuff that I'm going to do today. So let's jump into it. So it has been a while. I have been reading The Poppy War, and the book is divided into 3 sections. Kind of has like part 1, part 2. I'm sure you saw in the other clip, but I thought that I would just kind of update you at the end of each part. So far, I have just finished part 1, a little over 200 pages into it, and I am absolutely loving this book so far. I really enjoyed it since the very beginning too. It wasn't like I had to get into it before I liked it. I actually liked it pretty much right from the start, which is kind of unusual for me in high fantasy books because a lot of times it takes a while to get into it. And I did obviously have to get used to the world and learn the different things and the politics and all those things that are going on in here. But this didn't really feel like a fantasy book necessarily at the beginning of it. It did in the sense that it's not our world, it's a different made up world, but it didn't start out with a bunch of different magic, and it felt very similar to our world, just with different names. So it felt very similar to Asia, not the government and things like that, but just the way the world was. Obviously, it felt very similar to Asia because this is very strongly inspired by real historical events that happened in Asia. You definitely could feel like the brutality and the desperation of the people in this world. It seems like a very, very brutal country where you are just kind of out to survive, which is intense, and it makes the stakes seem really, really high when Rin, our main character, decides that she is going to do something to try to improve her life and change it from what everyone expected it to be. So our main character, Rin, is an orphan who was given to some foster parents who treat her very terribly. They are opium dealers, and they use her to kind of run their store, but also to deliver opium for them, and she's not treated well. They're abusive, and they are going to marry her off to this man who is going to help further their business because he is in charge of trade in their city. She does not want to marry him, so she decides that she's going to study for this test that everyone in their country takes, and if you score really, really, really well on it, you get to go to this prestigious military school for free. And that's the one that she has to score into because her foster parents are not going to pay for her to go to any of the others. So she studies really, really hard, and she takes that test and gets into this school. And that is the majority of what happens in the first part of this book, is that she is studying for this test, going to this school and trying to survive there, trying to stay in, because once she gets there, she realizes she needs to be one of the best in order to stay. I've literally just finished Rage of Dragons, which is a very huge training sequence book. So this felt very similar because this has that same aspect where they go to this place where they are training for the military. But this one is a little different in the sense that she's not just training to fight, she's training in strategy, she's training in medicine, she's training in all these different things that are going to make her pretty much a leader in the military, and she's going to be someone who isn't just a fighter, but she's going to be commanding parts of their military, is the idea going into this. I loved that aspect of it. I really actually like those types of books where you have those training sequences in them, and I like it a lot. It's something that I find very entertaining, especially when there's some high stakes thing that they have to compete in or something like that. I think that is very fun, and it really makes me invested in these characters, watching them grow, develop, do what they have to do in order to be the best because they come in as the underdog. And I really do enjoy Rin as a character. I know that a lot of people don't like her, I have heard, but I think she's great. I think she is obviously not realistic because this is a fantasy world, but I think she is just kind of real and raw, and she just wants to survive and make a better life for herself. And that is something that I just latched onto and connected with her, and I really wanted her to be the best at this, and you're just rooting for her to succeed against all these odds because she comes in as a peasant and she has darker skin and she's from the South, and all these things are looked down upon, and people don't want her to be there. They want to prove that she's not as good as the upper class people who are there. Like so many high fantasy books do. This is a very common trope in high fantasy books. So that was a lot of fun for me to read about, and I really, really loved that aspect of it. I think a lot of the other characters they kind of draw out your emotions in different ways. It really pulls at you and makes you feel different things about these different characters. Like you absolutely hate some of them, and you love others, and you think some are just so funny and quirky, and you get attached to different ones. I think the way the characters are written in this book is very good for eliciting emotions towards them. And Kitai, oh my gosh, I love him. He is absolutely like my favorite. He is so cute. He's just a perfect little cinnamon roll character, and I will be so mad if he dies. Ugh, I can feel it. I can feel that she's gonna kill him just because I love him so much. And I really enjoyed when we got a little bit more into the magic system. I don't quite understand it super well yet. It's very different because it's very much based on like gods and mythology and powers that way. So that is interesting, and it's very different, and I just don't quite understand everything about it yet. I feel like we're going to learn more as we go. But yes, I am loving this book so far, and I think I'm just going to go for a walk for a little bit and then come back and keep reading. back. It was really nice. It's kind of a fall feeling day, so it was a little bit cool. So I wore sweatpants and a sweater, which was awesome. I haven't done that pretty much yet this year. I think it's just starting to be able to do that when it's still daylight outside, and that was amazing. And then I got back and I continued with my read of The Poppy War, and I am now through part 2. So I think I am about, okay, let me look real quick. I am about 400 pages into this book now. I only have I think like a little bit over 150 left or something like that. This was intense. Okay, first of all, let's start out with that first chapter in part 2. What was that? This is a very random chapter. So we have been following Rin's perspective throughout this whole thing. And then the first chapter in part 2 is from a different perspective. And I'm sure it's foreshadowing something, and it's trying, like, we needed to learn something from that, but it was interesting and different. And I liked it. I think it was well done. It just really threw me off because we've been following Rin. So that was cool. I liked how she did that. The rest of it was a very abrupt change in kind of the tone of the book and just the way things are happening to the characters in this book. I like that. I feel like it kind of illustrates how abruptly lives change when war hits a country, and how it goes from you preparing for war, doing different things, and then how different actual war is and how much that changes everybody's lives, and everything is just thrown off by that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also have been loving the new characters that have been introduced and getting to know the magic system a little bit more and becoming more familiar with that and the different nuances of it, and people who are more skilled at it, less skilled at it, different things they have going on. I love our new little group of characters that we've been introduced to. I feel like I'd like a little bit more backstory on these people, get to know them a little bit better. So I'm hoping for that going forward, but it has been very intense. I know that I've heard a lot of people say this, but the Poppy War really does not glorify war. It kind of shows how horrible war is and some of the atrocities that people commit during war, because you are at war and you feel like that kind of gives you the right to treat other people like they're not people anymore. And it's harsh and it's brutal. And then some of the things that people do, you're like, how did this, like, how could people do these things? And it's intense. Like, it's just really, really intense in this book. And I know that a lot of people don't like how Rin deals with some of these things, but I think it's very realistic of how someone who is so young and has never experienced anything like this and really wasn't prepared to go to war until the last couple years of her life would experience being thrown into a war zone, and how she might react and freeze and not really know what to do and panic and like be angry and scared and all her emotions going on in this. And I thought that was great. I thought it was really well done. I loved how they kind of change some of the relationships that were introduced towards the beginning of the book, and now we are seeing them develop and change throughout this. So I have loved how this second part of the book is going, and I'm going to continue with it. I think I'll probably have some dinner, and then I'm just going to keep reading this book, bust it out, and get it done today. So I'm really excited for this, guys. Okay, premature freak out. I apologize. Okay, so it's pretty late, but I have now finished The Poppy War, and wow, this book was intense. I just felt so many emotions while I was reading this book. I was so invested in it, but a lot of the time I didn't even know what I wanted to happen because it felt like all the options were just terrible. Like, it was just so bad. Our options were not good, and I had no idea what I wanted to happen. Most of the time, I didn't know how I felt after what did happen occurred. I just didn't know how to feel for so much of this last part of the book, and also it was horrible. It was so hard to read. So definitely, before you go into this book, look up trigger warnings, because there are some very violent, graphic things that happen in this book, as there is a war going on, and it definitely does not hold back on showing the atrocities of war in this book. So many things that happened felt so morally gray. It's like people were going to die no matter what was decided, and it was kind of deciding how badly do you want to win and how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to win. The betrayals that happen and the different like aspects of the past that we see, and you just feel like you hate these people, but then your hatred is not quite as strong as the characters in this book. And so you're like, I don't know what I want to happen in here, but it's just so emotionally wrecking for me. I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I cannot wait for the second book. I want to know what happens. I want to know where we go from here. I have to know where we go from here. I have no idea what to expect from the next book, because this one ended so unexpectedly. I did not see that end coming. I did not expect that to be what happened at the end of this book. And I am still kind of reeling from everything that happened in this third section of the book. I feel like that hit so hard, and so many things were packed into that last section that just tore you apart and wrecked you. And I am going to have a huge book hangover from this. I know I am. This was amazing. This was so well written, and it was just great. This is one of my favorite books that I read so far this year, and I am really, really glad that this was a shelf space buddy read pick for this month, because I probably wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. But yeah, whew. Okay, well, that is the end of my Bookoplathon books. I have completed a readathon, guys. I've done it. I've never done this before, but I have officially completed a readathon, and I am very, very proud of myself. Bookopoly is always going to have a special place in my heart as the first readathon that I successfully participated in. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. If you liked it, definitely give it a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments how you felt about the Poppy War if you have read it. I'm really curious. I know that some people thought it was boring, and I just want to know why, because I felt like I was dying throughout the majority of this book because I loved it so much. Yeah, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on this book. Let me know if you successfully completed Bookoplathon as well. I really want to know. And as always, if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.